afternoon, everyone. I'm Trish Henry, OSP's Director of Partnerships and Custom Events. Welcome to OSP EXPO and OSP TV. I'm joined today by Kevin Morgan, Director of Marketing for ADTRAN, one of OSP's partners. Welcome.
Yeah.
Glad to have you.
Great to be here.
Wonderful. Few questions for you today. First question, what are the biggest challenges providers face in building a network to meet 1G speeds?
Yeah, the one gigabit per second.
There you go.
That's all the rage these days.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look at some of the challenges involved with getting to 1 gigabit per second, we're typically talking about an all fiber network.
Right.
And so the biggest challenge that we see are operators basically struggling with how far do we put fiber into the network, into the access space, into the wire center. But fiber is the absolute answer for gigabit services delivery. The other thing that we are seeing in terms of operators and their challenges with gigabit services, we did a survey. We actually did a survey of about 500 operators, and about 60% of them ranked that the middle mile had a big impact on their decisions of whether to go with gigabit services or not. So it's not only the access piece, the last mile, but it's also the middle mile, and it's also the transport that comes along with providing gigabit services. Big concerns for operators today.
And I'm assuming ADTRAN is addressing the middle mile.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
We have some solutions.
Okay, wonderful. Very good. Second question, are the challenges and solutions different for Tier 1 providers versus Tier 2 and Tier 3?
Well, when you look at the entire grouping of the industry, obviously the Tier 1s have a little bit of a different challenge than the Tier 2s, Tier 2s and Tier 3s. It really comes to the point that if I'm a smaller operator, I can literally change out my entire network and then operate that network for over a number of years, maybe an entire 5 to 10 year cycle before I go back and try to do the next upgrade. So what we're finding is that the Tier 3 or the smaller providers are early adopters of technology. So you would think that the Tier 1s have all the labs and all the research scientists, and they're driving for standards. But when it comes to actual deployments, the smaller operators are the ones that are out on the bleeding edge, challenging technology, and they're trying to be relevant in their operating space. And there are so many success stories that we can point to now of rural areas or small town communities that have taken the leap to fiber and are offering gigabit services in places that you just wouldn't think would have a gigabit service.
Exactly.
Now, on the flip side, when you look at the Tier 1 operators and their footprint, they have a very much different problem. They have the metro cities, obviously, and they also have some rural areas, but they also have to struggle between, do I go to spend my CapEx wireless or wireline? And so, when you combine all of those factors, it presents a lot of challenges with then pushing to the next level of gigabit services, and we're seeing a little bit of a reaction in the market whenever gigabit services are announced in one area. The competitive response has to come, and it has to come from the Tier 1s that are serving those areas as well. So we're seeing that too.
Wow. Interesting competitive marketplace for the whole thing. Tell me, what are the technologies that you're using to support 1 gigabit service offerings? So
ADTRAN is a provider of broadband equipment. We've been in the industry for nearly 30 years. We made our mark in DSL technologies, and we've continued to evolve DSL technologies. But when we're talking about gigabit services, it's really all about fiber. And so fiber to the home is the preferred method of architecture to get the gigabit services deployed. We are a very much a leading provider of fiber to the home technologies, both for the aggregation piece, which would be the optical line terminals, or OLT, and then the terminating piece, the ONT, the optical network terminal.
It's alphabet soup. You got to follow.
We have to have 3-letter acronyms, TLAs. You got to have those.
Exactly.
So, but in terms of our products, one of the things that set us apart is our ability to have full throughput on our gigabit services, especially in the access aggregation platform. It's no longer an option that we're serving sub-rate gigabit services. You're serving full gig. And when you talk about full gig and being able to aggregate all of that, the challenge becomes, how do you get that into the platform and out? And so we have both into the platform with the PON technologies, or Active Ethernet, point-to-point Ethernet, as well as packet optical transport systems for multiple. I know, I'm sorry.
No,
multiple wavelengths.
You're from here to here. That's amazing. That's great.
What's happened is the packet optical transport systems that used to reside in the core have really kind of migrated out to the metro edge, and now they're at the access edge.
Okay.
And so they're doing that because if you think about how the demand is basically being put on the network, it's no longer 10 meg services, it's no longer 100 meg services, it's multiple gig services. When you're talking about aggregating hundreds of gig services, you really have to have some packet optical transport functionality and ROADMs and
the whole shebang.
The entire kit and caboodle.
Can we use another term? That's tell me how these technologies are going to evolve in the next few years, 5 years.
Well, absolutely. The PON technology specifically is one where, when we look at what we're able to do, is the initial rollouts for fiber to the home have been largely residential-based services. Okay. And when we look at adding in the business elements, adding in mobile backhaul, adding in data center connections, now we're talking about 10 gig services. So when we think about 10 gig services, typically, there are options out there, but why not use a GPON for that as well? And the standards are being developed for next generation PON, NG-PON 2. Right. And that's kind of the evolution of where things will head next. Okay. We're not there yet, but we're definitely writing the standards. We're involved with that with the FSAN. We're also providing proof of concept technology, and this is kind of the next wave. We'll see multiple 10 gig services in the network in the next few years on the PON network.
Exciting. Yeah. Lots to come. It sounds like you've got all the pieces of the puzzle lined up. So
that's our business.
It is. It'll be neat to see how it develops. Staying relevant is really big in the industry. Huge buzzword. Right. What is ADTRAN doing to stay relevant in the industry?
So a number of different things. Obviously being involved with the ecosystem like we're here at the event at the OSP EXPO. But in addition to that, part of what makes ADTRAN a very great place to work, it's a high-tech company. We encourage out-of-the-box thinking and innovation. Sure. We have, in terms of our patents, we're one of the largest patent holders in the state of Alabama and also in the industry. When you look at the number of patents per dollar of R&D spent, we exceed the average by about 20 or 30%. So we're doing really well.
Okay, you are.
And part of that R&D spend goes to standards bodies, standards development organizations, sending our technology experts around the world to develop the ITU standards, the IEEE standards, and those kinds of things, as well as we're involved with industry associations like Fiber to the Home Council. Sure. I am actually a vice chairman of the board on the Fiber to the Home Council. Will be chairman.
I didn't even know that.
Next year. So, it's a big industry. It's a big ecosystem, and there's more than just products. There's a lot to it. We're all about trying to enable the technologies that are on our forefront and the ones that are coming down the road.
Okay. Well, and I know we've been very fortunate at OSP to have your folks do seminars for us, do webinars, and we're very grateful for you sharing your expertise.
That's our pleasure.
We're getting ready for our January OSP magazine issue, and one of the questions we're asking everybody is prediction for 2015.
Oh, wow.
Give me your best shot.
Isn't there a song about that?
Maybe, but I'm not going to sing.
So I guess 2015 is going to be a continuation of what we're seeing now. I think we just started hitting some relevance on gigabit services. Yeah. And we see a lot of announcements about gigabit communities. One of the things that we know leading into the 2015 timeframe is that by the end of this year, ADTRAN will have had enabled 50 gigabit communities. Okay. And by the end of next year, it'll be 200.
Wow.
So you're talking about a fourfold increase just in 1 year. So gigabit services are definitely here to stay. They're enabling communities, they're connecting lives, they're helping economic development and the quality of life in those areas that we serve with our customer base.
Sure.
It's exciting to be part of that.
That is very cool. I want to thank you for joining us today. This is Kevin Morgan with ADTRAN. I'm Trish Henry with OSP, and thanks for joining us.